What is acceptable risk? Or perhaps more to the point, what is acceptable or proper risk management? It comes down to being able to do the calculus where you figure out how much of a risk reduction per dollar do you get for various mitigation protocols. What's attractive is where you spend a little bit of money and get a large risk reduction. If you spend only a little bit of money and get a little bit of risk reduction, that's in a sense equivalent to spending a lot of money and getting a lot of risk reduction, because you could do that a whole bunch of times with the little ones, a whole bunch of little risk reduction with a little bit of money, and add them all up and you could get approximately the same overall risk reduction with the large amount of money for the large risk reduction. And so how do you optimize that? That's not a trivial calculation, but it can be done. And that often is missed when people start to talk about nuclear energy. A lot of people out there will say, well, I want the risk to be zero. And that can sound like you're being reasonable, like you just want low risk. But when you say that you want zero risk, generally that's going to require an infinite amount of money for anything, whether that's food or energy or infrastructure, manufacturing, agriculture, economics. Zero risk in general requires infinite amounts of money. And so you never have that. You can't have that. But it's easy to convince yourself. If you're already anti-nuclear, then that might sound reasonable because, it's confirmation bias. It fits with your narrative. And one of the examples that sometimes people ask is on securing a nuclear power plant, say from terrorism, something like that. Here's a question a person asked right here. If you look down at the bottom, it says, can a nuclear plant be secured against an attack from bad actors? And as a general rule, the answer is yes, of course. It's literally the only energy form that we have that's guarded by armed guards. No other, you don't have that at, a hydroelectric dam or a solar plant, but that energy source is guarded by armed guard with long guns, machine guns, things like that. And so in that sense, it's a very hard target, and it is protected from bad actors. Now, it's easy to say, but it's not zero. And if you want zero, then like I said, that's going to cost a lot more. You might say, well, what about a plane? Well, literally, it's the only energy source that is required by law to be able to withstand a large commercial jet aircraft crashing into it nose first and nothing bad happens. So, you can see why nuclear is so expensive when you have that kind of safety protocol that, where could you imagine any plant any manufacturing facility of any kind, you say if you got a jet aircraft impacting it, nobody can get hurt. You have to design your facility. Yeah, that's not cheap. And so nuclear is expensive and the risks are really low. But what we've done is we've spent an enormous amount of money to make those risks incredibly low. And as a result, the risks are extremely low, but we're spending a lot of money to get a moderate amount of risk reduction because that's been the priority. And that's basically what the lawmakers have been willing to approve. And so I hope that answered the question. My answer would be, yeah, of course you can make that risk acceptable. But at the end, if the question is, can you make it zero? Then as a general rule, no, you can't have any risk be zero unless you have no occurrence. For example, making the risk from nuclear energy zero the only way might be to have no nuclear energy. And that has its own risks, which is a topic for another video some other day or other ones that I've already posted. So thanks for watching the video. Hope you liked it. Hope you have a good day. Bye-bye.